and like maybe the world still don't show you everything, and you don't know exactly what goes on behind closed doors and when the cameras are off or in every conversation they had. So you don't really know what's going on. But to go off on someone like that in the last minute when they're, under, I keep wanting to say under the chuppah, but at the altar. And I'm like, that is not, you're like doing everything that you're complaining about right now. You're
Yeah.
shaming him in front of everyone like that, all at one go, like that moment where she's just exploding and letting everything out. Which, by the way, as a side note, is a great reason, an example why you shouldn't hold things in and why you need to talk about things up front and as you go, and not to like allow it to come to the point where it's exploding like that and then there's no way back. But I digress. I feel like she could have done it way better. If that's how you feel, that's okay. Just don't do it like that in such a way where it's so icky. Like you're complaining to him. She said even like you single-handedly destroyed my confidence. And what are you doing? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
nothing, no matter, even if everything she's saying is true, nothing he did justifies the way she humiliated him like that. You're sort of just stooping to his level.
Yeah.
And two wrongs don't make a right. So you have to take him before and talk about these things. And obviously he was completely oblivious to what was going on. And maybe that he should have been a bit more attentive to realize her insecurities and to understand that maybe she's misinterpreting some of his things, or maybe he's treating her in small slight ways that touch on her weak points. But this, again, this is why conversations need to be had, and not to hold things in, and to just talk about the things and not do it. Yes, this whole show is public, but not to do it in that moment where you're just humiliating him to sort of what, pay him back for what he did
But
to you. I don't know.
I was like, this, I wholeheartedly agree. And I'm happy that as soon as that episode dropped, I went straight to social media. Usually I don't go to
Yeah.
social media, but here I went on Twitter, I went on Instagram. I wanted to see what people thought. And I saw that a lot of people were agreeing with what we're saying of just this is out
Mm-hmm.
of order. But sadly, a lot of people are agreeing with how she's behaving and how Alexa is behaving. And I'm like, that is not okay. And what I find not okay is people like Alexa and the Alexa type of overwhelming, overbearing personality of saying this is wrong and you're
Mm-hmm.
wrong and blah blah blah. It's just leading to the bad conversation. And also Alexa had no idea what was going on. So just,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up, basically. And
Yeah.
you want to give Zenab the benefit of the doubt of just this is how she was feeling about it. And okay, she's not behaving well, but maybe this is how she's feeling about it. And she's like overwhelmed with her own feelings. And she's projecting on Cole, and maybe give her the benefit of the doubt. But then the
Yeah.
following episode of the reunion after the reunion type of
Hmm.
where she's saying blah blah blah, and I still think that Cole was a dickhead and an asshole, and he did this and this and this, when she was shown exactly what he was doing and it wasn't doing badly, and like a lot of people agree, and that is just she overreacted, and she also needs to apologize, and she didn't. I was like, you are the worst example of like you did something in the wrong and then you are insisting about being in the wrong. And that for me is the worst thing in the world. It's the worst trait that somebody can have.
Yeah. You sort of, that's the victimhood mentality. First of all, you're like victimizing yourself, and you're seeking pity, and you want people to sympathize with you, and you enjoy it. You enjoy that sort of attention, which I think is pathetic, but okay. And I feel like when you watch the show, sorry, but not sorry, saying it as they are, it just really annoys. It really irks me to no end, uh, how anyone can come and just make something up, or not even make it up. You just blow up the truth to proportions that are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then a poor man, what is he going to do? And even if it isn't true, there's always going to be people who believe her. There's always going to be people that that remember him for that. And it's gonna probably, you know, be a cloud above his head his whole life now, because that's already out there.
Yeah.
And when you watch the show again, especially like knowing what you know, it's very easy to see the amount of times she was so mean to him,
Oh
and
yeah.
how she was always like telling him how immature he is, or pointing out all the things that he does wrong, how messy he is, and she's always making him feel bad. And so I think this whole relationship was completely toxic, because I guess both of them were, because he was also saying a lot of like, I think he's just very immature, and I think he's just, a lot of times he says things without thinking. He
Yeah.
has no ill intent. He just says things, whatever, like how he rated her 9 and Pauline a 10, or when he says that she's bipolar or something. I don't know. There's a lot of things that, but she was sort of just being mean to him as well. So like, you're sort of just blaming him, but you're doing the same thing. At least he has the decency to apologize, even though he didn't really realize what he was apologizing for. He was crying on national television from this prospect of maybe being an evil person that she's painting him to be.
I know. I know. My heart broke for him. I agree. He's just clumsy. He's an
Yeah.
immature, clumsy guy that I think most guys are suffering from these days because of everything
Mm-hmm.
that's going on about the Me Too movement. And, you know, I feel that if you're these days, if you're a white heterosexual man, you're in trouble. You're in
Yeah.
trouble. And I feel like the Alexa character and the Zenab character of these strong, like, these not strong, not positive, but still strong headed personalities of just like, they're going to go for it.
Yeah.
I saw an easy target in Cole and thought, we're going to go for it, because right now, social media and like society is backing us, is behind us, and we're going to make a whole thing of this because it's easy to make men the target, and they are they are to blame.
Yeah.
And I think that that's exactly what they did, and it's so unfair. It's so unfair of just, Alexa, and honestly, in the situation, Brennan kind of backing, oh, I agree with my woman. It's just like, you need to think it for yourself. You're like,
Yeah.
I appreciate the men out there fighting the good fight for equality and women's rights, but you need to think about what it is that you're saying. Like, and Brennan, after seeing the images about the cuties and everything, was still like, I agree with my woman. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want men who back up false things to be on my side. Like, I don't need you. The fight is complicated enough without having you just talk shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the problem, is it's everywhere. And I think it's no wonder a lot of people try to just stay away from these things altogether, and are scared to find love, and are scared to meet people, because you never know. Like in this day and age, especially with social media and the internet and all the technology around, things spread like wildfire, whether they're true or not. Like it really doesn't matter. People just need something to talk about, and people just don't. Especially today, I find it so ridiculous. People spread things
Yeah.
without even fact checking, without even, looking into it a bit. They just share it because it's trendy, because everyone's doing it, because it's going around, which just goes to show the I'm sorry to say this, but the stupidity of some people, where they're just sharing things because, oh, women shouldn't be treated this way. And she's saying that, and it's not okay that it's on. I'm sorry, but yes, it's true that women shouldn't be treated this way if it actually happened, but don't share things like that, and don't spread it, because you're ruining someone's life who may be innocent. It's like ridiculous to me, and this happens all the time. And 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 not only in these kind of topics, but just believing on face value and just spreading it even more without using your brain and looking into things even more. And I'm kind of digressing here again, but oh,
Well,
it annoys me to no end.
I was talking the other day. I was driving a family to the airport, and their kids are 10 and 6. And
Mm-hmm.
so the 10-year-old and I, we were talking and things. And I don't know how we come to this type of conversation with a 10-year-old, where I was like, well, sometimes people post things on the internet that are not necessarily true. And you just need to be careful and think for yourself. And I don't know, I can't remember how we got in this conversation. And she was just like, what do you mean? And I said, well, sometimes people will say things because they know that it will get an argument going, or that it will get them popular. And I said, but even though it's wrong. And I said, yes. And she said, but what if people are telling them that they're wrong? Why aren't they listening? And I was like, this is very deep. And I can't be having this
Mm-hmm.
conversation with you. You're 10. Please believe that the world is pink, and and just keep going, because I don't want to ruin it for her. She was like, so her mind was blown of just, why are people saying wrong things if they know that it's
Yeah.
wrong? And
Yeah.
yeah, I found it beautiful that she was like so surprised at this. And her mum and I were just exchanging looks of like, her bubble is gonna burst, and that's such a
Mm-hmm.
shame.
It is a shame. And I think it's a shame that we don't all keep a piece of that innocence in us of just, I mean, it's and the most ridiculous part is that it was all televised.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's parts we don't see, but it was televised. You can go on and look for yourself
yeah,
and see the evidence, and people still would rather believe the woman, because it's harder to believe that a woman would lie about such things than to believe that she would and it isn't true,
yeah.
and the evidence.
Yeah,
So
it's what I tell my clients of just like, assume that people are telling the truth, because it's nicer to live in a world where you think that people are telling you the truth, but use your common
yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Use your
Yeah.
common sense of just, sometimes, if something doesn't feel right, or that's probably the truth. And then instead
Yeah.
of making a big mess